a while ago, Sean reached out to me. Now, for those of you who don't know Sean from Zero Fidelity, I'll put a link to his YouTube channel. And Sean told me, Thomas, I got these Genese Trio in for review, and they are fantastic. Okay, fine. And then he said, in some sense, I like it better than the Buchar S400. I'm like, what? Now, for those of you who don't know the Buchar S400, you must be living under a rock, because everybody knows the Buchar S400. Now, I'm not saying Sean prefers it over the S400. I'm saying that he likes both equally. And for me, that's a big statement, because as you know, he introduced the S400 to the world, and after that, there's so many positive reviews on the S400. For him to like another speaker as much, around the same price, or actually it's even a bit cheaper, is meaningful. So I waited eagerly for the review. And after I watched the review, I'm like, Sean, are we talking about the same speaker? Because the conversation between you and me on Facebook is different. And Sean told me, yeah, I know, but you know what? I was trying to be objective. I was trying to be fair. I was trying to be neutral. I didn't want my emotions to affect the video. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem being a YouTuber. Sometimes we try so hard to be fair that we hold back on what we really think. And in this case, I can completely understand him. When I was about to make this video, I reached out to Sean and I said, all right, Sean, let's talk about this speaker seriously. Between you and me, what do you like about the S400 more than the Trio and vice versa? So in today's video, we're going to talk about this. So looking at the specs of the speaker, you'll quickly realize that it is a very big speaker. I can tell you right away, the build quality, the finishing is fantastic. For 1,500, about that USD, it is quite impressive. It's easy to drive, 90 dB sensitivity, and this is a two-way horn-loaded speaker. Now, for those of you who are interested in buying the speaker, you probably can only get it at Adorama. Now, Adorama sent me these speakers, and behind the scene, there's a story. And part of the reason why they're carrying it is because of Sean. Actually, you know what? I know that the first week when Sean got it, he didn't like it. Only after break-in, that's where he go like, whoa, Adorama, you should import these because they're fantastic. So the fact that Sean endorsed it and told Adorama that they should bring it in because this is such a fantastic speaker should give you an idea how much Sean likes these speakers. By the way, for those of you who don't know Adorama, they're sponsoring this video, go check out their website. They don't only sell camera gear, they also sell stereo gear now. It's been a few years already. You know what? Go look for something for me to review. The good part is, if you guys say, I want you to review this, they can send it to me. So in the interest of time, I'm just gonna like fly through this part. We're gonna talk about how it sounds. Now, before we begin, to help me review this speaker, I actually got my friend Mr. Vintage to help me out. So in the interest of time, I will not go into how it sounds in detail. Just go watch Sean's video. I will say a few things though, okay? The top end, what I noticed with these speakers, even though I think they're metal dome, they don't sound like a metal dome tweeter. There's no ringing problem. Now Mr. Vintage finds that, yeah, it's pretty sharp. For me, because I'm a full cut lover, I wish it was just a bit sharper. Now, it can get slightly shouty if the speakers are pointing at you, but that's the nature of horn speakers. Next, the mid-range, there's warmth to it. The bass is where it's very good for me, because the bass is strong. You're gonna feel like this is a full tower speaker. It doesn't feel like a stand mount speaker. Personally, me, I prefer floor standing speakers. So, because I like the weight, and this one has it. Stereo imaging is actually very good for a horn speaker, and there's layering in the soundstage. Dynamic is good. Speed, so-so. That's where it's not its strength, but I would say it's good enough. So overall, you can summarize it as a lively speaker, but a warm speaker. Lively and warm. So let's move on to what you should be careful about if you plan to buy this speaker and what's amazing about this speaker. The negative. All right, positioning is important. Why is that? Because if you want depth in your soundstage, you actually have to play with it. I remember at one point when I was chatting with my friend Mr. Vintage, and he told me, whoa, these speakers have depth, man. And when I got it home and I listened to it, I'm like, I don't hear any depth. And then one day I say, okay, it's time to review these speakers, so let me position them properly. And then I hear that a really deep soundstage. And so what I realized is that the positioning is very crucial, and also your sitting position. I find there's a certain height where you have to sit to get the best out of it. So sweet spot is a bit narrow. The second thing is not a negative. You see, I told Mr. Vintage, look man, I think the top end is slightly rolled off. For Mr. Vintage, he said, no, I find it very open, it's expressive, it's detailed, it sparkles. That's true. But I still find it a little bit rolled off. And we're like comparing. I said, well, compared to my Focals. And he said, yeah, well, of course, you're comparing to Focals. But compared to his speakers, it is not rolled off. So if you're somebody who likes KEF, monitor audio, Focals, it might not be sharp enough for you. All right, so let's move on to what's amazing about these speakers. And at the same time, I'm going to talk about how it compares to the S400. Because me and Sean, we had a conversation about this the other day. Now, the S400 is actually more refined. When it comes to soundstage, it's bigger, it's wider, it's a big wall of sound. It's quite impressive. That little small speaker, man, it creates this ginormous soundstage. Very good. Bass is actually faster on the S400. And it's quite impressive that that small speaker can output a lot of bass. I personally think the S400 is more dynamic. Now, the Trio, where it does better, well, it's more exotic looking, it's cooler looking. I think because it has a bigger cabinet, I don't hear the box as much. And it feels more like a floor standing speaker. The soundstage is deeper. For me, it is warmer. And the way it sparkles is a bit better. I also like the fact that the Trio, the way it decays the top end, for me is better. Because, you see, one of my complaints with horn speakers, I'm talking about even $20,000, $30,000 horn speaker, is sometimes the decay is a little bit faster than what I like. The Trio doesn't have this problem, and that's where I personally prefer. Now, the most important reason why I like this speaker, and I think why you should consider it, is because it works well with all kind of recording and plays all genre of music well. Now, don't underestimate what I just said there. Behind the scene, I actually speak to a lot of audiophile. People call me, they email me, and one thing I notice that a lot of audiophile share is their pain. They spend so much time tuning the system instead of enjoying the system. Thomas, man, I bought this cable yesterday. My system sounds fantastic. A few days later, man, but I listened to this track yesterday. Man, it sounded horrible. It was painful, and then they go, you know what, I'm going to change another cable. I'm going to change another amp. And it keeps going and going. And yes, when the recording is fantastic, the system is great, awesome. But in real life, either you're somebody who only look for the best recording, or you look for music you enjoy regardless of recording. And in the beginning of my journey, yeah, I only look for the best recording possible. But these days, hey man, YouTube, no problem. I listen to anything that I enjoy. And I noticed with the Trio, any kind of music, any kind of recording, it sounds great. To be able to play music that you like on a system without distracting you with the treble being too bright, the soundstage is too narrow and blah, 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 I think that's gold. Next, with the Trio, it's easier to get a center image. And finally, the Trio is easy to drive. I was driving it with my 12-watt monoblocks, no problem at all. I was trying all kind of amplification with it. I don't remember one where it didn't work. Now, ideally, you want more power, because for me, I think it sounded better with the Macintosh at 200 watt. But with the R8, that combo actually sounded really good. I actually spent most of my time listening to this Trio with the R8, because at the time I was also reviewing the R8. So I just keep using this combo, and I'm telling myself, wow, you know, if you think about it, $3,000 and you have such amazing performance, that's really impressive. In short, both speakers, the S400 and the Trio, are fun speakers. Well, that's the nature of horn. They're very dynamic, very lively. It's like you're there type of feeling. So either way is good. It's just a question of taste. So that's why for Sean, he said that he likes them equally. Now, he did say if he's stuck on a remote island and if he had to choose one of them, yeah, actually, you know what? Just go ask him in the next live stream when he does it. So before I wrap it up, let me tell you a behind-the-scenes story. One of my subscribers actually runs the Centre Hi-Fi chain here in Quebec. And I shared this video with him. He's like, Thomas, man, I want to sponsor this video too. So I say, sure. Now that Centre Hi-Fi is under new ownership, the focus of the company has changed. And that is why you see Centre Hi-Fi carrying all kind of audiophile products. For example, KEF, Klipsch, Totem, Triangle, T+A, and so forth. Now, you can go to the stores to A/B test different amps, such as Yamaha, Arcam, Audiolab, and Quad. They even carry quad tube amps. So we're lucky here in Quebec that if you want to actually A/B test the Triangle Genese Trio against the KEF R3 or Totem Sky, you can actually do it. Now, I'm going to put in the description box which store you can go to listen to these trio. Also, I'm lucky that they have offered me to take anything from the store to review. Now, personally, I would love to borrow a pair of KEF $40,000 Blade 2 speaker, but many of you have asked me to review the KEF Meta. So go check out their website, put in the comment section what you want me to review, and I will go bug them. Guys, put in like the request for Blade 2, man. All right, so let's wrap it up at this point. Now, I do want to say that my own preference are speakers like Focal. Very sharp, very bright, very detailed. That's my kind of speaker. So horn speaker is not my first choice, meaning that if I can only live with one pair of speakers, it'll be something like a Focal type of speaker. However, I think all of us should at least have a pair of horn speakers. The other day, I was listening to this trio. I like listening saxophone, especially with horn speakers. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to A/B test it with my Focal 1008. That one has a beryllium tweeter. It's also a stand mount speaker. Took it out, put it on, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. Because it's just not as lively and fun as the trio. Now, of course, I know from my experience, it takes time for me to adapt back to the Focal 1008. And after a while, yes, I go like, whoa, the Focal sound amazing. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you switch between a horn to a normal speaker, you're going to feel that it's just not as fun. So that's why I say everybody should at least own a pair of horn speaker. For me, if I have to choose a pair of horn speaker to keep, it will be either a trio, this one, or a pair of Klipsch. These two speakers, the reason I like it, as I mentioned, is because the way they decay on the top end, it's not like traditional, well, like the other horn speakers I listen to where the decay is a bit fast. And for that reason, I personally would choose either a Klipsch or a Triangle Trio. You should at least give these speakers a try. Don't let Sean's mediocre, non-enthusiastic review turn you away. And I'll finish this video with this little conversation I had with Mr. Vintage. You see, Mr. Vintage is not a fan of horn speaker because he doesn't like the idea that sound is projected forward. But he said, you know what? The trio, what's amazing about it is that the soundstage is behind the speaker. And as I mentioned, I can hear depth in the soundstage. I can hear things on the left, on the right of the speaker. It's not really a wide soundstage, but a deep soundstage. And for Mr. Vintage, he said, you know, in the old times, I used to play with Klipsch speakers, and the soundstage used is flat, right? Because things are projected forward. But because of the nature of this trio, the soundstage is behind the speaker, and it has a forward projected sound. That's where you hear layering in the soundstage. And that's why for Mr. Vintage, he said that these speakers are quite impressive. It's impressive what today's horn speaker can do. And yeah, for those of you who have not heard horn speakers for a long time, that's something that's probably different compared to the speaker you used to listen to. All right, guys, so I'll see you next time.
It's not defined.